Hey ladies, I'm coming to you from my trail walk with my dogs today because I have teenagers coming and going in my house right now today. I mean, pretty much all summer I have, but sometimes it's hard to get the recording done because my office is literally right in the main entranceway in my den. So it can be hard to get the recording and stuff done that I need to do. So I apologize if you're hearing wind or maybe even my footsteps. This is just a uncensored, unedited podcast because I wanted to make sure that I got one out today. I'm trying my hardest, doing my best to make sure I get an episode out every week, regardless of what's going on in my life. And sometimes life takes over and you don't get the things done that you plan to do, right? So what I want to chat about today really is a theme, again, that I see with women and the importance of recognizing that your environment has a direct impact on your health. And when you are in a constant state of fight or flight, you're walking on eggshells, you're in constant emotional stress, you are repressing those emotions because what are you going to do with them? You don't know what to do with them. You have to carry on. You need to go to work. You need to feed the kids and get them to school. And you're dealing with an extreme amount of stress a lot of times when you are in an abusive relationship, whether we're talking about narcissistic abuse or emotional abuse, psychological abuse. In my mind, it's all narcissistic because, as I've said this before, only someone who is completely selfish and self-absorbed with no empathy could actually abuse someone and knowingly hurt them. So I think we're always talking about some form of narcissism when someone has abusive tendencies and behaviors, and there are differing levels and spectrums to this stuff. And so this coming bit of time, I'd say in the next few weeks, I'm going to be doing more podcasts and throwback episodes on highlighting narcissistic abuse and the dynamics if you are dealing with a relationship that you know, like, it can't be normal, but a lot of times it causes a lot of confusion. And women tell me things like, I know I need to leave, but there's just this something that stops me, or this thing that I can't get past. And they're developing health issues. They have autoimmune, or they have autoimmune symptoms. Or if you're in your 40s, late 40s, you're going to start having perimenopausal symptoms. There will be hormonal fluctuations. Your periods change. But when you add emotional stress on top of all the other things that you're doing, and us women, we have a lower level of stress tolerance. We have a harder time managing all of the responsibilities and stressors, and our stress system doesn't as easily handle the stress as it does for men. Doesn't mean that men don't get stressed, but they deal with it differently. You see men, they are logical, they're able to just push through and keep going, whereas we still do that, but we need to be embodied and feel our emotions and be present to what our body is telling us. And when we're not, that's when these health issues start to come up because of the constant stress. Like, you do any research, just a simple Google, on the health impacts of ongoing stress. So this isn't rocket science. It's not anything new. I'm not reinventing the wheel talking about this. But what I have heard so many times from women is, yeah, I've had all of these health issues, but I didn't really put two and two together, or I do see all of the symptoms and signs and reasons that I need to get out of this situation, but I just can't seem to do it. And so when you're in that powerless state and you're putting the reason why you can't change your situation on something external, you're leaking power. Like, you're completely leaking your power. And for women, that is our root chakra, which is the energy center of where all of our reproductive organs are. And that is our money center as well. So if you don't feel in your power around money and solid in your ability to provide for yourself, and you have shitty money stories and fear around money, or you have a spouse that was using control over money, you're going to have a greater chance of developing uterine disorders and pelvic organ disorders. And this isn't coming from me, it's from, I've done so much research on this because of my own issues. And if you search up anything from Dr. Christiane Northrup, she has some really amazing holistic women's health books on mind-body healing. So she's really one of my favorites. And she has said the same thing. She developed I can't remember what she said, if it was a grapefruit size or something size fibroid when she was trying to get out of her marriage. And that's how it manifested. And she had a lot of, disempowering beliefs and mindsets around money, as many of us women do. We develop this thought and this idea that we can't make it on our own without men, and how we provide for ourselves. So all of these things are going to come out through the physical body. And I have worked with women long enough to know that there's definitive physical health implications of being in a toxic, abusive relationship. I think more than anything else. Yes, there's work stress. There can be family stress that comes up. There can be unexpected finances or bills, or, raising kids, or things that will come up. But these things are not acute, ongoing, relentless with no end in sight. Typically, there may be periods in time. But when you are in an abusive relationship and you're dealing with someone who has narcissistic behaviors, it's crazy making, and it puts you in this constant state of instability, emotionally, mentally, and otherwise. It's ongoing. There is no reprieve from it, because even when women are away from their spouse, say they work out of town, they work away, or they both are working away, or for whatever reason they're not with them, their mind is still going. They're like, well, I'm not with him, so I don't know, my mind is still going and I'm feeling this walking on eggshells feeling. Or some will say that's the only time I actually can feel like myself, when they're on their own and away from them. But yet there's still this part where even if you're physically away from them for the day or for a weekend or a period of time, there's still this underlying gut gnawing feeling, because you're going to have to go back there until you get to a place where you realize, I cannot go back there. And so I had a call with a woman, and she said, I just don't know, I'm waiting for this moment when I just know I'm done. What do I do? Do I just decide I'm going to leave in 30 days and go for it? And I'm like, well, I can't really answer that part for you, because every woman's timeline is different. I have worked with women who were already on their way out and they exited in a month, or just through the process of joining my coaching group. They did the first couple of modules and that was enough, because those are the most intensive modules in the program of End the Cycle, which, by the way, I am bringing it back, revamped, renewed, updated. It's coming soon. And part of the way that I see it is personal growth is one of my highest values. And so, I can't really say that my business and the work that I do is separate from me, because it's absolutely not. I'm not my business, but the work that I do is very much a part of who I am, and it's my history. And I bring a lot of who I am into the work. This is my living, ongoing study, because with every single woman I work with, I'm learning something new, something different, something I need to add to my program, or a new layer, right? And a new layer within myself. And so when I got toward where I was moving toward a divorce in my relationship, of course, I was spread thin. There's a lot that goes on with these things. and it can get worse before it gets better. So I went through a lot. I went through a health crisis, and I literally didn't have the bandwidth to be writing about narcissistic abuse. I couldn't even, like, I'd open up my laptop and be like, oh, I got nothing. I cannot even talk about this anymore. And so I realized I was just really burned out, that the content itself was really triggering for me. It was too close to home. I just couldn't do it anymore. And so I took a little diversion. I was working with women, and I have been working with women who are on the other side. They've left, and then they're trying to rebuild and renew and like recalibrate their lives with their children and create a new stable foundation for their children on the other side. And so I've been dabbling in that, like taking one-on-ones. I've run a couple of groups. I've sold some of the self-study materials that I have around that. But I just really, I needed to take a break from that body of work to allow myself to heal. And I have done that. And so speaking of physical healing and mental healing and emotional healing, like I've felt a renewed motivation to get back out there and help women who are stuck in these situations. And the reason being is because what happens to you as a result of these relationships is profound, and the residual effects don't just go away when you walk out the door. And so it's very, very close to my heart, and it's like one of those things that I can't stress enough, but I think women still, they're not ready to hear it sometimes, that you literally have to save yourself to save your kids. And you have to get to a place, and I've said this before, that you're not staying for the kids, that you know you need to leave for the kids, because you see that they're not doing well and they're not thriving and they're having mental health issues. And so not only are you trying to stay above water with your mental health, you're burnt out, you're having physical health issues, you're not feeling well. How can you expect to be there for your children in the way that they need if that's the state you're in? And I wrote something about this on Instagram the other day about why children are abandoned by both parents when one of them has narcissistic personality. And it's because the kids are abandoned by the one who is being abused, because we're often not in a good state. And this is not comfortable stuff to look at. This isn't about beating the shit out of ourselves and shaming and judging and beating up on ourselves. No. Some women take it that way, and they're just still in their victim. They're not ready to see that. Like, oh yeah, that feels like shit. Thanks. No, it's to realize that, okay, that's the reality. And yes, the past can't be changed. What you've done up until now cannot be changed. But you have all the power available to you to change it from today forward. So if you're not coping and you're running on fumes, just working, taking care of kids, getting them to school, flopping in bed, getting up, doing it all over again, you're not able to parent your kids correctly, so you're feeling some shame around that. And you can see the impact this is having on the kids, but realize you are the only one with the resources to be able to change this trajectory. Aside from the fact maybe some of these men get up and eventually leave, and when they do, I think you have to think of yourself as one of the lucky ones, even if you don't think that's true. Think of yourself as a lucky one if they quietly just go away. But you're in for a fight, and you're in for more chaos, and it will get worse before it gets better most of the time. So you need to make sure that you are in the best possible state you can be for the situation. That might just mean putting some things in place to get you through until you get out the other side, and then you can really double down on the aspects of self-healing and all that once you get out. Because when you're in crisis and you're in fear mode, it's really hard to access your resourcefulness part of the brain to come up with solutions when you are in survival mode. You're in fear mode, you're in fight or flight. And this is where having external guidance and coaching helps, because you may not be able to see the way forward. And if you're like the woman that I spoke to, where you feel like you need to leave, it's bad, and maybe you have a whole list or spreadsheet of the incidents and the things that have happened, and you're looking at it and going, yeah, that's pretty bad, but there's something's missing, that you're not able to actually do something about it. You need to get support, right? If you've tried the therapy, you've tried everything else, and you still are in that place, then there's something there that you need support with. And sometimes it's just as simple as a certain mindset shift, or it's realizing, oh, I have this pathway I can take, or this is the route I need to go. Or it's someone really highlighting how dire and serious your situation is, because you're so far in it and been gaslit so much to believe that you're making a big deal out of nothing, that you minimize the situation. Is it really that bad? I don't know how many times I've heard that, even have a mini course on, is he really that bad? It is that bad. If you're dealing with abuse, it's always that bad. It's worse than you think, because we are really good at being in denial. And so, in my experience, it is always way worse than what women are telling themselves. It's not better than they're telling themselves. I've never been like, oh, it's not so bad. When I get on a call with a woman or I'm coaching, oh, that doesn't sound so bad. It's always like, my jaw's dropping. Like, what? He said what? He did what? Like, what? And sometimes you need that kind of validation to move you forward. So it's different for every woman. There's no shame in not being able to make the decision that you need to make for yourself and your kids. But where we can feel ashamed is if we're not actually doing everything we can in our power to figure it out. So the cost to not figuring it out is ultimately a continuation of the cycle, your health getting worse, your kids getting worse along with you, because our kids can only do as well as we're doing. And if you are struggling, they're going to be struggling. You will start to see this continuum of you're really struggling, you're going to have one or all of your kids struggling. A lot of times it's one out of the kids that seem to be the ones that are really taking the energy in of the toxicity in the home, and they are the squeaky wheel, so to speak. They're the quote unquote problem child, but they're acting out the repressed emotions of those in the home, and they're acting out what they're seeing, and it comes out in many different ways, and it is heartbreaking. But like the part here where you have the power is it's asking yourself now, okay, what am I going to do about this? I've got to stop burying my head in the sand and telling myself, oh, it's it's not that good, not that bad. And the thing too here is, like, the women I have worked with, they're brilliant, like leadership positions, high excelling in their careers, very intelligent women, well put together women, very well spoken and smart, all of it. They'll rattle off to me all the verbiage and the definitions and the names and labels for things and what they think is going on with them, and they'll recite quotes and things they've read and all of it. Pardon me. But yet they're like, but nothing's changing. Like, nothing's actually moving the needle. And that's just because that's all busy work. You're not actually doing what needs to be done to start moving the needle. And so what we need is some clarity. We need is some strategy and some accountability. Okay, here's what you're going to do next. Here's what I really suggest that you need to do from here. Here's the direction I believe you need to go. So if you are committed to this and you're ready for this kind of coaching and support, then I invite you to get onto the End the Cycle waitlist. I'm right now working on revamping the program, updating the content, restructuring it a bit, because I did get a fair bit of feedback from women on one of the modules that it was too much in one go. So I am looking at restructuring it and making it a little more digestible, adding in some new stuff and making it even better. So if you are in this place and you're ready to get the support, to get the clarity about whether to stay or go, and when you make the decision to go, how to plan your next steps. So get from that place of fear into clarity and freedom from narcissistic abuse, and break your kids free from this as well, because really ultimately that's what you're doing. You're ending the cycle for your children and future generations when you walk away and you're determined to create a new way of life for yourself. It's never too late. And if you have younger kids, I just feel especially called to speak to women with younger kids, that if you're listening to this now, you're further along than I was when I had little kids. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you have more available to you now than I did when I had toddlers and infants. And you have the power to do something about it. You really do. And I wish that there was a program like I created when I was struggling. Like, there wasn't anything at that time. And so it just kind of went on without knowing what the cause was for a very long time. And so I never want that for any woman. So all this to say, get yourself on the wait list if you are ready to move through this and actually do something about your situation. And you're ready to invest in yourself to get the actual support you need from someone who has been there, who has also coached many, many, many women who are also there and have been there. But also tell yourself the truth about reality, like what's really going on here. And one thing that I highly recommend is I do this regularly, do an audit. How's my health? How am I doing on a 1 to 10? How's my mental health? 1 to 10. How am I coping? How are my relationships outside of this situation? Am I connecting with friends outside? Am I investing in my personal growth and actually implementing what I'm learning? Do I have the right support system in place? Do I have someone in my corner to help me move the needle forward with the accountability and the strategy? Or am I just fumbling around in the dark hoping that I'll find a solution? And then also, how are you doing with your health? What are you doing for your health? Are you doing the basics of wellness? So that's what I have for you today. I'm just about to head back on the route to my house. You came with me along for my walk today. And I hope that this offered some value for you at this point. And maybe you took something from this that you needed to hear. And I will chat with you in the next one. Take good care.